everybody. So clearly we're trying a different camera angle today. There is something that hopefully I'll be doing in the future with this particular angle, not just for my projects, but also perhaps for potentially an event. We'll see. It's going to be, there's still a long road ahead yet. However, pressing back into it. If you guys had seen my short, this is what my spectral horse has become. This is going to be my reference to my spectral horse colors. So, luckily, it's going to be the Alatak blue here as the base color, followed by the a Neptune blue. It's a much paler. It is a very pale blue. Kind of spun. It's going to be sponged on for the effect here. So, I'm not going to overly bore you with watching me paint every single horse, but figure I could at least do a couple of these, and that way you can kind of see the process of how this is going to go. So bear with me on this, guys. So here we go. So, next color I'm going to do here, because I did make this also a darker shade of blue, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go dark on the entirety of this. What I'm going to do is try to wash in to the blue as is, with it still damp and whatnot, with some of the Abaddon black. So this should work out pretty well, because I did have it work out really well on the wet palette, and it mixed together, did pretty well. So that's what I'm going to do here. And it should, if I can get my fingers on it, there we go. It'll work out in the same principle. Not necessarily the same way, but at least the same principle. So it's going to be kind of a slapstick. It'll be kind of a slapstick work. So as you see, I'm not going over everything. I'm aiming for some of the higher spots where shadows potentially could be. So almost kind of in a similar way to tiger striping, if you think about it. All right, now wet down the brush and just start kind of fanning it through. And I'm going to go heavier on the saddle section here, because that's where my rider will be. So there we go. And then follow it up with the tops where the head is. There we go. There we go. Kind of wash it in. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, however, but as you can see, there's some of the higher blues around the heads and the darkers. Obviously, like I said, I did around the saddle dark for the rider, where he will be sitting. And then I still left this splotchy near the back. The head I left fairly clean. Now I'm going to do one more step before I have to let these pretty much sit and dry. And that's going to be a sponge work. So you can get any paint sponge you'd wish. I got these at a hobby store, pretty dirt cheap for a big set of them. And now what I'm going to do is just start dabbing these edges, and this will pull up some of the excess just a little bit and leave the areas where I've highlighted, and spread this out sort of evenly. But there we go, just like that. In the front there, I've left pretty pale, which is what I want. There we go. So that's pretty much the process to get the base coat on for these. Now, like I said, I'm not going to bore you by having you watch me do all of these. I figured I'd at least start with one to give you the base coat look. Then once I have, and then as I'm going along here, some of these will be dry and ready, and that'll be part of the next segment of what will be put into this video. And essentially, here we go. And essentially what you will see, it will be the final result. Now, these will not all be exactly alike, but that's what I want. I don't want them to be alike. I want them to all look a hair different. Even if it may not be a hair, I want them to all have their own character, just like they would if I painted these like normal horses. They would all have had their own spotting and those kinds of things. That's what I want to have accomplished, to have them all look at their own. So anyhow, so that is the start. Is that's how I'm going to start this is with the horses. I don't think all my riders will pop off, which is perfectly fine. I can live with that. I can just work around it. I have smaller type brushes to work with. So anyway, that's going to be that segment for now, and I'm going to go ahead and continue working on the base coats for all the horses here. Let me know. Like I said, I'm doing this as a kind of a test run of a different angle. I know you guys are generally over on up here above me, above my shoulder and watching, but I wanted to do something a little bit different and kind of get people's thoughts on it too. So, and like I said, I want to test this out as a way to basically for something later on down the road. So I'm excited to try that as well. Anyhow, bear with me, guys. Like I said, I'm going to try to get these all base coated and finished. And then the next thing we'll see is how I'm going to basically give a glow look to my riders, because like I said, they're going to be druid riders. Druid riders on their spectral horse. So that's the idea. So bear with me, guys, and thank you for your patience, and I'll catch you in the next segment. Hey guys, so now that I have these, I've gotten these all straightened out and painted through. So I'm going to show you the sponging technique I'm going to use to do these up. So now I'm going to do these on 2 different ones, so that way you can see how you can make them slightly different from each other. So, as you see, this is a darker shade. I'm not sure if you can tell from the lighting and whatnot, but this one's a little bit, I think, a little bit darker shade than this guy, or vice versa. So, at any rate, I'm going to show you guys how I do that. So, the color I'm using, it's called a Neptune Glow. It's a very teal color. I have it here on a wet palette right off the screen here. So, we're going to start with my my riderless one. So bear with me on it, guys. So I take this tiny little sponge piece here. Go ahead and dip the head right on it. It's getting a little bit. And then just go ahead and start start splotching in a few points. Spinning around. I'm going to just go ahead and dip that in some water real quick. Squeeze it out a little. Squeeze. Get this as dry as I can. And then just kind of start spreading it out. Now, the good thing is that I can take my excess that I have, and I'm just going to, and you can spread it out slowly and surely across the areas all the way. Now, what's nice with sponging too, as you're trying to reach, when you're trying to reach into areas, it won't get into the crevices. So that way you can have the nice highlighted shadows as well. Okay, so there we go. So there we are. So as you see, there's a slight gradient from the high point here down to essentially where that fold is. And that's what you'll see on a lot of this. So that's one. Now we're going to go ahead. We're going to do this guy with the one with the head down here. So again, just a little plucking of the color. And then just kind of, I didn't go as heavy because I went pretty hard on it. Just kind of, and then just kind of. Now this one's going to be a little more difficult because of the rider that's on it. But the good thing is I haven't painted the rider yet. So a lot of that's going to get painted over, which is the plus. And also, having only a little bit of this at a time allows me to work one section at a time. There we go. So there we go. There we go. Now, with some of these, I'm going to more than likely grab an airbrush with some of these and some of the close, fine, tight spots, and I'll be able to add a little more glow to them along the way. And that's kind of the goal here. Let me clear out that sponge. And I'll hold these up side by side so you guys can kind of see this. There we go. Okay, so now here's that one. So now you can see, because obviously without the rider I can hit more spots, but I didn't get everything on every single location. But as you can see, there's slight differences. Obviously, rider and no rider is one big thing. But as you can see, some areas are just heavier than others. So you can kind of go about making these slightly different all around. So that's kind of the goal I have. I want these to have their own kind of distinctive look and feel as these guys are coming across the battlefield. Essentially is what I'm doing here. So anyway, but yeah, that's kind of the thought there. So as I continue on, I'm going to keep going across these. Obviously, by the time you see the next segment of this, you will see all the horses completely painted through and having the spectral look to them. That is the thought and idea here. And then the next segment, I will at least take my rider that fell off, and I'm going to at least paint him up so you can see the effect I'm hoping to go for to turn this guy into a glowing druid rider. Now, most people who ever played the old world or even the fantasy ones would be like, oh, these must be riders of the undead. Well, you could think of them that way, but I like the idea of a druid taking these fallen knights and turning it into their own order. So, but that's kind of how I like to think of them. So anyhow, that's what I got for right now, guys. So the next segment will be working on the druid riders. So stick with me on this, and hopefully you guys will enjoy and continue following along. Hey guys, so as you can see, I got the speckling all done on the horses here. I really like how they turned out here. So there's one thing I'm going to give a little caveat to. I had to do a second layer on my first couple here because the paint was a little light on them. But I got a second speckling on. And as you can see, it's a lot. It kind of looks like how it looked in the first place. But however, if I left one in comparison, I should have. But as you can see, even like here, if you look close enough, it is a little bit darker where I first laid it down. So now this looks a lot closer. Yeah, here we go. This would be a better look. So this one, my reference, you can tell if you went side by side, I only did one layer on this guy. So you can see how the second layer now kind of highlights a little bit more. Whereas now this is kind of dried onto a darker shade due to the base coating. So anyway, but got that squared away. I love how they're looking. I also like how some of these, because of course the paints were not stored in the kindest fashion, you know, non-insulated garage. But I like the speckling on this a little bit more, actually, as I was looking at it more. So I like the fact I want these guys to have their own look and their own kind of personality in a way. So yeah, so the speckling is not the same on all of these. So, but today, what we're doing is I'm going to take my warrior here, and I'm going to go ahead and get him painted up, so you guys can have a look at least what these druid riders will look like on top of these guys. So, so for the armor. Basically, armor, I'm doing really, really basic. I'm not going super crazy. It's going to be a lead belcher base. Okay. Then I'm going to give these guys a green glow to the top of these. So for the green glow, I'm going to try to do a little stippling of a ivory white in certain areas mixed with some lighter sponging of my warpstone glow, and then hopefully it'll be finished with a data system glow, which is a wash. Essentially, it's an effect wash. So we're gonna go ahead and start the base coating on this, and at least the armor, and I'm going to at least do some areas where I'm going to highlight the green in certain areas where basically take the white, and I'm going to use the white to highlight the openings of armor places where it's going to be the brightest, hopefully. So let's see how it goes. gonna let this dry for a bit. I'm gonna let this dry for a bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and then do the green over the top of this. So bear with me, guys. So it's gonna be a waiting process. So catch you in the next segment of the starting with the greens. Hey guys, so hopefully I'll have a better view of this because in the last second I noticed I was way off over here, so sorry about that. So anyway, so I know it's impossible to tell, but I did lay some white on this. I'm gonna have to lay down another layer probably. Sad. That, or I'm just gonna have to go straight to the greens, which is probably what I'm gonna do. Keep it simple. So anyhow, all right. Okay, so now this dark green is going to be the base color, and once this is dried out, I'm going to use, I have a transparent green. It's much lighter, and I'm going to go over top of this in certain areas to emphasize the glow look of this, kind of blending into with the horse a little bit as well, as the colors kind of intermingle. So it'll be a lot of fun for me on that. All right. So, hey guys, now I have these all set up and painted with the green setup here with the glowing on it. As you can see, it's already got a nice look to it already on the top and the lighting. So this is going to look, I'm hoping this is going to come out really, really nice to start with. It's a dark shade now. I have my airbrush set up. All I got to do now is just add my nice transparent, my fluorescent green. It's going to be pretty much a nice bright capping on the darker greens, kind of splotch it a little bit just to kind of see how it develops. Hopefully I can get it to look really, really nice. I do still need to get, I'm going to see if I'm getting if I could find a correct color blue to do this with. If I could find some type of something similar to a Neptune glow, that might be a transparent look, perhaps. We'll see how that goes. It's a search, but I hopefully can get it. So we're going to get this going. So I got nice coverage on everything. I'm sure you guys could tell during the course of the video, like how this transparent green really pops against of a thickness. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to probably scale down a little bit in areas because, of course, sometimes too much of one color is too much of one color. However, having the extra allowed me to at least do something else. I was thinking about, like, how do I want the power to be resonating and all that kind of stuff from the riders through the horses, etc. And these are supposed to be like a druid resurrected type rider. So basically having the druid energy flowing through the horse, glowing off the horses, as you can see as you go along the edges here, coming to the glow of the rider. It'd be similar to as if when lightning strikes the earth. It's just a grounding effect of types. So going it around the hooves, along the areas where it just kind of rolls off is kind of the thought. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up. And then I'm going to proceed with painting a little bit of the lead belcher base color on to thin out some of the highlight areas. And basically from there, it'll more like the green will be like outlining on from the edges on the armor, maybe. Basically the blush plating is probably where I'm going to focus that attention. So anyway, bear with me, guys. You'll see it in just a few moments. Okay, now okay, there we go. So I'm gonna get you guys down here in a second to kind of have a closer look at these. So you're not gonna see a huge difference because beforehand the whole upper bodies were basically covered in the transparent green with the lead belcher as the base color underneath. Now what I've done is come back with a little bit of a thinned out lead belcher to mix with some of that transparent green color to go through it, so it still kind of highlights it, but it's muted in a sense. So it's the same way as if you were taking a white base and if you took a watered down black color and put it over that white, it would look more gray. So that's kind of the idea. So this is going to be muted in a way with the transparent green kind of highlighting around certain edges of the armor. And I wanted that on the breastplates, as they would be called. No comments. In the pun intended. Anyhow, so upon the breastplates of the armor itself. So it'd be like a central glow where the facets are, is the idea. So that's what I went with, and I'm pretty happy with how these came out. So let me bring you on down here. So, as you may recall before, I'm not sure if I had the greatest view, but these guys had some dark green arm covers and everything else. So yeah, it's a little more muted. It's not as plain and bright. So that was pretty much the goal here, to mute it down and make it look nice, and kind of mute it down and blend it together into the armor itself. So these guys would kind of be like, in effect, a druid version of a Ghost Rider in a way. So that was what I was aiming for. So my next step in this diorama here, oh, way too close. Anyway, the next step in this diorama that I'm planning is I'm going to start probably planning out the actual diorama itself, the board that they're sitting on. So it's going to be just a plain, just a normal kind of open field kind of thing, or not quite a meadow. What would be the better word? I guess a shire, which would be a term that some people may be familiar with, Lord of the Rings. But that's kind of the idea. It's kind of like this valley, like actually a valley would be a better word. Like it's this valley point that these guys are coming into. And like I said, I'm hoping to come up with something to kind of add a little more dynamic look to this. And yeah, and you guys will see the single project very soon. I've got him sitting right in front of me. So he's the next little thing that I'm going to be working on, so I can kind of finish the paint work on him and at least start the process of building the base for him as well. So keep an eye out for that video. That's coming very soon. It's probably not going to be as long because working on a single miniature is sometimes a bit shorter work because you have to do so few things and you have to wait for everything else. It's the hurry up and wait syndrome. So anyhow, thank you guys. Keep in touch with this. I'm going to be uploading. You guys should see this hopefully you guys will be seeing this very soon, along with the singles as well. So, so just remember to, like, subscribe, comment, share, do it all. Even hit that bell as well as a notification so you know when the next videos get uploaded, whether that's a short or whether that's a short for a miniature update, as I will say, or the actual videos there for the diorama itself. So thank you guys very much. I will catch you later.